just come up with this equation, and it says, remember, if I'm going to do it in point-slope form, that I need a point and I need a slope. I already know what my slope is, and we happen to pick the first point, which was 2.1 when we started plugging in data, but we also chose the purple and the pink points. Remember, you can choose any point you want to. Your equation will look different than your classmates, but they all do the same thing. They predict a value. So our equation, based on what we just did, I would say, would be y minus, and you chose the 2 from the table for the x value, equals 0.362, which was the slope, times parentheses x minus 2.1. How many people are writing in pen? Ooh, that's too bad.
Isn't the 2.1 the y?
They should be switched around.
Oh, very good observation. Just making sure people are looking. So, over here and over here, I put them in the wrong spot. Don't do that. The x value was the 2, because I plugged it in for x, and the y value was the 2.1, because I plugged it in for y. Make sure that you're paying attention. Probably the most common error on a test. Okay, make sure you put the x where the x goes, the y where the y goes. It makes a huge difference. No, not me. Shut it. Domain. Domain is talking about x values. Or in other words, what could my x values be? So when I go back and I look up at what the x values are, this is talking about the number of people. So, does it make sense to have negative 40 people? No. Does it make sense to have 7 people? Yeah, how about 1,000? Yeah, I mean, you could be in a big dome or something watching a football game. So, what makes sense is positive integers or 0, like no people. It doesn't make sense to say 1.4 people. That's a decimal. But integers like 1, 2, 3, 7, 2,000 make sense. That's your domain. What could the number of people be? And those are the integers. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use this prediction equation in the gray up in step 4 to find some values. And I'm going to show you how to do that on your calculator. So I need to write this stuff down, otherwise I'm not going to remember what the equation is. So I had y minus 2.1 equals 0.362 x minus 2. Let me show you how I type that in my calculator. Notice how the y is not alone? You guys notice that? And my calculator uses y equals. So when I go to my calculator, and I want to do my y equals, I have to move that 2.1 that I had there to the right-hand side of the equation. Remember, when you move things across the equation, they change sign. So what I'm going to type in is 0.362, which was my slope, parentheses, x minus, not negative, but minus 2, parentheses, and then I'm going to move that 2.1, which was negative, to the right-hand side of the equation, which will make it positive. And then I would have 2.1. So on our paper in step 4, we had the point slope form of the line, but in order to put in our calculator, we had to move that part of the point over to the other side so we could predict. And then if I go back and I look at what it says what happens when I have 12 people, 40 people, and 43 people. And the nice thing about your calculator is if you know how to change your table set, I can go second window, and I can go to Ask Auto, because he knows everything. And what that does, it says, hey, type in whatever you're interested about, and I'll show you the answer. So now I go into my table, which is second graph, and the three numbers I was curious about were 12, 40, and 43.
Yeah, that was 43 seconds, not
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I said it first.
Oh, my bad. Oh, the last one was seconds. All right, I'll talk about the last one in just a moment. Sorry, thank you. So the first two, 12 and 40, are talking about how many people, and then they give you the number of seconds. So the answers to the first part and the second part are 12 for the x value, and 5.72 for the y. And 40 for the x value, and 15.856 for the y.
For the first two, can we just leave the x, just leave it because we already have the x? 'Cause it's
Right, they just want you to write them down. So here's the x,
do we have
here's
to,
the y. Yeah, because they want to know if you understand that it's the x value. Because obviously I didn't in the last one, huh?
No.
Does it need to match up with the table above?
Nope, nope. Because remember, this equation is our prediction equation. So technically, if I was doing this, one of the things that we talked about is this is really called y hat. It's a prediction equation.
Okay.
So it is not necessarily going to match up exactly with the table. So this one we had, what was it, 12 people, and what was the y value?
5.72.
5.72. So that was the y value. And in the second one, we had that the x value was 40, and the y value was 15 point something?
8.56.
856. And in the last one here, somebody noticed that I typed it in wrong in the calculator. The y value in this case is 43. And now I have to find the x. This is a little bit different. So in order to do this, here's what we do on our calculator. In my y equals, I'm going to put in the second y value as the 43. And what this is saying is, here's my equation, and here's what I want it to equal. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and calculate where that happens. That's where the two graphs cross. So one of the graphs is going horizontally at 43. The other one is some kind of line, and I want to see where they cross. So what I do is I have to go look at a picture of this window. So I always go zoom 6 to start with. And this is ridiculous, because as you can see, my line is going up, but I can't see that horizontal line at 43 because my window doesn't go up far enough. So I'm going to change my window a little bit so I go up that high. I'm going to first of all go with 0 people to start with, and then I'm going to go up to maybe 100 people because I don't really know what's going on. And it doesn't really make sense to have negative seconds, so I'm going to start with 0 seconds. And since I want to have 43 seconds, I'm going to go up to 50 seconds just to see. That way I can see the horizontal line. So 0 to 100 and 0 to 50. And then if I graph, I'll see my line going, oh my goodness, what? I didn't go far enough to the right. So now I got to change that again. That's ridiculous. So I'm going to go with 150 maybe. And now graph it. So sometimes you have to adjust your window. So there's my line again. Oh, no, oh, look, they cross. And what I'm looking for is where do they cross? I already know they cross at 43 seconds. So I'm looking for the number of people right here on the x-axis where that occurs. The way that we do that is second, trace, number 5, because I'm looking for where they intersect, and then you just hit enter, enter, and then you arrow over to where you think they're crossing. You have to be somewhere nearby, you don't have to be exactly on top of it. And when you're close, just hit enter. And it will tell you down here how many people there are. 114.983. 114.983. So 114.983. And we talked about a little bit earlier that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So you might want to put down 115 people because you don't have 0.983 of a person. So after about 115 people have stood up, that's when 43 seconds have passed. That's what it's talking about. And then it says in the last question, can you use this line to predict how long it would take to complete the wave if everybody at Hopkins High School participated? And the answer is, of course you could. You would just plug in total number of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why do people like to mess with me? Say